Act as if you are already elite, not someday, not when the world finally sees your value. But now, this very moment, every decision, every action, every thought, you carry them as if you are the top 1%. Because here's the truth, the elite don't wait to become great. They act with precision long before the applause begins. They aren't lucky. They are intentional. They understand something powerful. Identity drives behavior. If you wake up and move through the world like someone who dominates their field, someone who respects their time, sharpens their skills, protects their energy, and honors their purpose, you are rewiring your brain to make that identity real. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is train it until you become it. When you stand tall, when you show up with purpose, when you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you're sending signals to your nervous system. This is who I am now. And over time, that becomes automatic. It becomes your default. You don't need to feel confident to act powerful. You act powerful to become confident. That's how the neurochemistry of belief works. Action precedes certainty. Movement precedes clarity. The top 1%. They aren't different by accident. They don't rise by waiting for the world to give them permission. They set the standard. They act on days they don't feel like it. They study. They execute. They evolve relentlessly. So today, you have a choice. Do you repeat the identity of the average, or do you rehearse the identity of the elite? Because if you walk like it, speak like it, train like it, live like it, your brain, your body, your life will begin to align. Act as if you're already among the best, and eventually you'll stop acting. You'll just be unshakable, focused, elite. Your identity is the compass that steers every thought, every decision, and every action you take. Most people believe that behavior shapes identity, but in truth, the reverse is far more powerful. Identity shapes behavior. When you begin to think, act, and move through the world as if you are already part of the elite, the top 1%, you don't just pretend to be better, you begin becoming better on a neurological level. This is not merely philosophy or mindset advice. It's biology, it's science, it's how the brain operates at its core. Your brain is constantly seeking coherence. It wants alignment between who you believe you are and how you behave. When there's a gap, the brain feels dissonance, and it tries to close that gap by adjusting either your behavior or your identity. Most people unconsciously shrink their identity to match poor behavior. But the few, the elite, they expand their behavior to meet a higher identity. They step into the image of who they want to be even before the world sees it. And by doing so, they condition their brain to adapt. They align their actions with that identity until it becomes second nature. Neuroscience tells us that the brain filters every experience through the lens of self. If you see yourself as average, you will automatically behave in ways that reinforce mediocrity. You will avoid risk. You will overthink. You will procrastinate. You will choose comfort over growth because you have subconsciously accepted that your role is to survive, not to lead. But if you see yourself as someone who is elite, someone who is built for pressure, who performs under fire, who leads with clarity, then your behavior rises to meet that self-concept. Your posture changes, your voice steadies, your discipline sharpens, and your environment begins to shift because people treat you according to how you show up. It's not about arrogance. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about claiming the identity of who you're becoming and behaving in alignment with that identity until it becomes your default operating system. The most powerful people on this planet didn't wait until the world called them elite. They decided it first. And once that decision was made, they built routines, choices, and systems around that identity. They didn't rely on motivation. They acted in congruence with who they believed they were, and that belief governed everything. The brain's ability to adapt to identity is called neuroplasticity. This means your neural circuits literally reorganize themselves based on repeated thought and action. When you consistently tell yourself, I'm focused, I'm disciplined, I'm elite, and then you act accordingly, your brain wires that pattern into your system. Over time, it becomes automatic. Just like you don't have to remind yourself how to walk or breathe, elite behavior becomes your norm. It's not a performance. It's who you are. The power of identity is that it creates internal alignment. When your identity is strong, you don't need constant external validation. You don't need praise. You don't need someone pushing you. You push yourself because you've anchored your behavior to something far deeper than fleeting emotion. You've anchored it to purpose. When that happens, distractions lose power. Fear becomes fuel. Challenges become data. You don't crumble when it gets hard, you recalibrate. This is why acting, isn't about faking it. It's about training it. You are training your nervous system, your habits, your responses. You are teaching your brain how to handle intensity. You are preparing your character for the demands of greatness. Because the 1% don't get there by chance. They arrive there through countless reps of intentional behavior that matched a bold identity. They saw themselves as worthy before the titles came. They saw themselves as focused before the opportunities appeared. They behaved as if they belonged at the table, until everyone else saw it too. You don't need more information to change your life. You need a stronger identity. You need to stop reacting to your current circumstances and start responding to your future vision. That vision lives in the identity of the 1%. That's what separates the driven from the drifting. The driven wake up every day and act like it's already theirs. They don't wait to feel elite. They live like it. They show up to the gym like an athlete. They read like a CEO. They speak like a leader. They work like a world-class performer. Not someday, but now, today, every minute. And it's not always glamorous. It's often repetitive, even boring. But they know something the average person forgets. Every action is a vote for who you are becoming. If you want to be elite, your daily behavior must reflect it before the results do. It means being intentional with how you eat, how you train, how you speak, how you spend your time, how you recover, how you think under pressure. All of it matters. Because you're not just trying to win a moment. You're building a lifestyle, an identity, a legacy. So ask yourself, who are you choosing to be today? Are you aligning your behavior with the elite version of yourself? Or are you letting your circumstances define you? Are you reacting out of fear or responding with power? The brain doesn't care what you say. It responds to what you do repeatedly. Every decision is casting a vote. And over time, those votes add up to your reality. Start now. No more waiting. No more hoping. Act as if you are the elite. Train as if the world already expects greatness from you. Think as if you are leading nations. Move as if your legacy depends on it, because it does. Identity isn't a fantasy, it's the foundation. And once you own that, the rest will follow. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. The top 1% don't operate on motivation. They operate on discipline. This distinction alone separates those who merely dream from those who execute. Motivation is fleeting. It is emotional. It rises and falls with mood, environment, and circumstance. It's easy to be motivated when things are going well, when energy is high, when the sun is shining, and everything feels possible. But discipline is what shows up when nothing else does. Discipline is the internal force that moves even when every part of you wants to quit. It is cold. It is consistent. It is unshakable. The elite don't care if they feel like it. They just do it. That's because they've trained their minds to obey purpose over feeling. They've decided that success is non-negotiable. And when something becomes non-negotiable, it becomes routine. It becomes part of your system. There is no internal debate. There is no mental resistance. You wake up and execute because that's just who you are now. The 1% build systems around their goals. They build environments that support their mission. They don't rely on willpower in the moment. They design their lives in a way where discipline becomes the path of least resistance. If you study elite performers, athletes, CEOs, soldiers, creators, you'll notice a pattern. They don't ask themselves, do I feel like it today? That question doesn't even exist in their mental vocabulary. They have rituals. They have structure. They have habits that carry them through boredom, fatigue, and discomfort. While others are waiting for inspiration, they're already in motion. Because they know that progress is found in repetition. Greatness is not built on a few intense bursts of energy. It's built through quiet consistency over time. Discipline is what allows you to show up in moments of doubt, pain, and adversity. It is the ability to keep going without applause, without attention, without shortcuts. It is the quiet force behind every world-class result. When you train yourself to operate without needing to feel ready, you become dangerous. You no longer depend on the outside world to move forward. You move because your mission demands it. You move because you promised yourself you would. And that promise, when kept over and over again, builds a core of trust within you. That trust is the foundation of self-confidence. Most people fail not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they chase feelings instead of forming discipline. They start strong but fade when the novelty wears off. They set goals, but abandon them when life gets uncomfortable. But the elite don't stop when they're tired. They stop when it's done. They don't skip days because they're overwhelmed. They adapt, adjust, and continue. That is the mark of discipline. It's not perfection. It's persistence. You don't need to feel unstoppable every day. You just need to become the type of person who shows up every day. Discipline is showing up on the days you want to stay in bed. Discipline is putting in the work even when no one is watching. Discipline is eating clean when it's inconvenient. It's saying no when distractions come knocking. It's turning down temporary comfort for long-term greatness. And here's the truth: the more you act with discipline, the easier it becomes. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it grows. Every time you override an impulse, you're training your brain to follow through. Every time you honor a commitment, even in silence, you are reinforcing identity. And slowly, you start to realize you don't need motivation to be excellent. You need structure. You need intention. You need standards that don't bend with emotion. That's how the 1% rise. Not because they are superhuman, but because they've trained themselves to do what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel. Their actions are driven by values, not moods. They don't negotiate with laziness. They don't argue with excuses. They act. And action, repeated daily, compounds into power. So if you want to break through, stop waiting to be inspired. Stop hoping for motivation to arrive. Start building discipline through small, consistent, deliberate action. Design your environment to support discipline. Remove friction, build habits, create accountability. But above all, honor your word. Do what you said you would do even when the fire dies down. That's how discipline is built. That's how you separate yourself from the masses. Because when the average person waits to feel motivated, the elite are already halfway through the mission. When others get distracted, the elite are doubling down. When most complain, the elite execute. The difference is not in their resources. It's not in their IQ. It's in their level of self-command. And that self-command comes from discipline, pure, relentless, unapologetic discipline. If you make discipline your foundation, motivation becomes a bonus, not a necessity. You no longer hope to stay consistent. You simply are. You don't fear failure because your system is built to recover, adjust, and continue. The 1% don't chase results. They chase effort. They chase mastery. And over time, results become inevitable. Build your discipline like your life depends on it, because it does. In the long run, the disciplined will always outlast the motivated. Always. Your nervous system is not just a bundle of wires that send signals from your body to your brain and back. It's a learning machine. Every time you take an action, every time you repeat a behavior, your nervous system records that experience and makes it easier to do the same thing again. This process is called neuroplasticity. It means your brain and body are constantly rewiring themselves based on what you practice, consciously or unconsciously. This is why acting as if you are elite is not about pretending. It's about programming. It's about teaching your nervous system how to behave like the top 1% until it becomes second nature. When you act as if you are already the disciplined, focused, high-performing version of yourself, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between fiction and reality. It processes that repetition as real data. Your neurons fire in patterns that correspond to those elite behaviors. And when neurons fire together, they wire together. The more you rehearse that identity, the more those neural circuits strengthen. Over time, they become your default responses, your instincts. Think about how you learned to drive a car. In the beginning, everything was conscious, adjusting the mirror, checking the gear, pressing the pedal. But over time, through repetition, those movements became automatic. Your nervous system learned. Now you can drive while having a conversation or thinking about something completely different. That same learning mechanism applies to any behavior, whether it's waking up early, maintaining focus under pressure, speaking with confidence, or training with intensity. Every time you act as if you are elite, your nervous system records it and prepares to repeat it more easily next time. This is why your habits matter so much. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, your nervous system registers that decision. It adapts. It makes it easier to choose discipline again tomorrow. Every time you show up when it's hard, your body learns resilience. It becomes less reactive to stress, less sensitive to fatigue, more wired for focus. You are not just building mental toughness, you are reshaping your entire nervous system for excellence. The power of repetition lies in its cumulative effect. One elite decision may not feel life-changing in the moment, but when repeated daily, it transforms your biology. Your posture improves, your breathing deepens, your emotional regulation becomes stronger. You stop flinching under pressure because your nervous system has learned how to stay calm, centered, and locked in. This is not magic, it's training. Just like a muscle, your nervous system strengthens through use. The beauty of this process is that it works in both directions. If you rehearse procrastination, excuses, and negative self-talk, your nervous system will learn that too. It will get better at avoiding hard things. It will adapt to fear. It will become hypersensitive to failure. That's why awareness is crucial. You must be intentional about what you're practicing, because what you repeat, you become. The 1% understand this deeply. They are not just working harder. They are training their nervous systems to operate at a higher standard even under chaos. When you practice elite behavior, you're also changing your brain's chemistry. Repetition of disciplined action increases the release of neurochemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine, which are associated with motivation, attention, and learning. Over time, your brain begins to crave the feeling of progress, effort, and excellence. You become addicted, not to comfort, but to growth. Your nervous system no longer sees difficulty as a threat. It sees it as a trigger for performance. That's how the elite separate themselves. They don't just manage stress, they've trained their nervous systems to thrive in it. This level of conditioning takes time. It takes patience. But the most powerful shift happens the moment you realize you don't have to feel ready to begin. You just need to begin. Because every repetition is a message to your nervous system. This is who I am now. And your nervous system listens, it rewires, it evolves. The more you act as if, the less it feels like an act. One day, you'll wake up and realize that the behaviors that once felt forced are now effortless. That's the result of neural adaptation. That's the power of consistent, identity-driven action. And here's what most people never realize: your nervous system isn't loyal to truth. It's loyal to repetition. It doesn't care if what you repeat is empowering or limiting. It doesn't care if your behaviors are making you stronger or weaker. It will reinforce whatever you feed it. That's why you must be ruthless about what you allow into your system. Guard your routines. Guard your self-talk. Guard your environment. Every repetition is shaping you. Every repetition is casting a vote for who you're becoming. If you act like the 1%, with focus, intention, discipline, and execution, your nervous system will begin to reflect that identity. It will support you, it will guide you, it will adapt to help you win. But you must do the work, not just once, but every day, because in the end, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your patterns. And your patterns are shaped by what you repeatedly do. Train your nervous system like your future depends on it, because it does. Confidence is not magic. It is not a gift given to a select few. It is a neurochemical loop, an internal cycle of cause and effect that begins with one thing action. You don't wait for confidence to show up before you take the leap. You take the leap, and confidence builds through the act itself. Every time you move forward despite fear, your brain releases neurochemicals, specifically dopamine and adrenaline, that reinforce your ability to act. And that reinforcement becomes the foundation of true confidence. People often misunderstand confidence. They think it's a personality trait. They believe it's something you either have or don't. But in reality, it is a biological process, a loop of stimulus and response that can be activated, strengthened, and repeated. The moment you take action in the face of uncertainty, your brain rewards you. It gives you a chemical signal that says, that was the right thing to do. And when you repeat that action, the loop becomes stronger. Your nervous system starts to associate risk with growth. It begins to link fear with opportunity. And slowly, action becomes your default, not hesitation. The elite understand this at a deep level. They do not wait to feel confident. They act with intention and precision even when they are uncertain. They rely on systems, not feelings. They know that confidence follows courage, not the other way around. When you act in alignment with your highest self, even for a moment, you send a powerful signal to your brain, I can handle this. And that message doesn't go unnoticed, it's logged, it's stored. It's reinforced. And that's how confidence is built, through repetition of bold action. Your brain thrives on evidence. It builds belief based on what you do, not what you say. If you consistently avoid hard things, your brain concludes that you are not capable. But if you consistently lean in, if you step forward into discomfort, your brain begins to shift. It starts to see you as competent, capable, resilient. And that shift is chemical. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward, is released when you approach meaningful goals. It tells your brain, this is worth doing again. That's why action is so powerful. It changes your neurochemistry. It rewires your identity. Confidence is a byproduct of stacking wins. And those wins don't have to be massive. They just need to be consistent. Showing up to train when you don't feel like it. Speaking your truth in a room where it's easier to stay silent. Following through on your word when no one is watching. These are the actions that fuel the loop. These are the moments where your biology changes. Because every time you honor your integrity, your brain recognizes that you can be trusted. And when you trust yourself, your confidence becomes unshakable. But the opposite is also true. When you break promises to yourself, when you quit early, when you seek comfort instead of purpose, your brain notices that too. It stores that data. And over time, that creates insecurity, doubt, hesitation. Not because you're broken, but because you've trained your brain to expect failure. That's why the loop must be respected. You must treat each action like a message to your future self. Because it is. Every time you act in strength, you send a signal, I am becoming someone who does hard things. And eventually that belief becomes your truth. This is why elite performers are so focused on their habits. Because habits automate the loop. They reduce the friction between intention and execution. When your environment supports action, when your systems are built around purpose, your brain doesn't have to fight itself. It doesn't have to wonder if today is the day you will rise. It knows. Because the loop has been activated so many times that it's no longer questioned. It's automatic. Confidence built through action is far more durable than confidence built through words or external validation. When your belief in yourself is rooted in your own behavior, nothing can take it from you. Not failure, not rejection, not criticism. Because you've conditioned your nervous system to respond to challenge with movement, not retreat. And that conditioning is your edge. It's your advantage in a world where most people wait for permission to start. So if you want confidence, stop chasing the feeling and start building the loop. Start small if you need to. Make one bold move today, say what you've been holding back, do what you've been avoiding, act before you're ready. And when that voice of doubt creeps in, remind yourself it's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear. Because that's what builds the chemical momentum. That's what fuels the loop. Your brain is listening. It's learning. And it's adapting based on what you do. So do the work. Show up when it's hard. Lead when it's uncomfortable. Train when it's inconvenient. Build trust through action. And over time, you will no longer have to try to be confident. You will simply be. Not because you've achieved perfection, but because you've conditioned your nervous system to expect victory. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a loop. And you are in control of the switch. Flip it. Activate it. Strengthen it. Because the elite didn't wait to become confident. They built it from the ground up, and so can you. Visualization is not fantasy. It's not wishful thinking. It is a powerful biological tool that reshapes how your brain interprets reality. When combined with action, it becomes a performance-enhancing system rooted in neuroscience. The human brain doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. This means that every time you visualize yourself acting, performing, succeeding, or overcoming, your brain responds as if it's already happening. You begin laying down the neural groundwork for future execution. But visualization alone isn't enough. It only becomes transformative when it's paired with deliberate, repeated action. That's when change is no longer imagined. It becomes physical, measurable, and inevitable. When you visualize in detail, your brain begins to map out what success looks like. It builds neural circuits that simulate the behaviors, emotions, and decisions needed to operate like the 1%. But if you stop there, if you only imagine and never execute, your nervous system remains passive. To activate the full power of visualization, you must teach your body to follow through. You must create a feedback loop between what you see internally and what you do externally. That loop, imagination paired with execution, is how elite performers condition themselves to thrive under pressure and act with clarity in chaos. The key to making visualization effective is specificity. You can't just picture vague success or generic ambition. You have to visualize the process, the habits, the sacrifices, the effort. The elite don't just see themselves winning, they see themselves training before sunrise, pushing through fatigue, showing up when no one is watching. They rehearse the grind, not just the glory. That mental rehearsal trains their nervous systems to remain calm, prepared, and focused when those moments arrive. Because in their brain, they've already been there. What's even more remarkable is that visualization can enhance physical performance. When athletes visualize themselves executing perfect form, their motor cortex, the part of the brain responsible for movement, fires as if they are physically doing the activity. This builds a bridge between thought and motion. And when they actually perform, their body responds with greater precision. That same science applies to speaking with confidence, leading teams, performing under stress, or making difficult decisions. The more vividly you imagine the process, the more familiar it becomes to your nervous system. And the more familiar it becomes, the less fear has control. Visualization is also a weapon against self-doubt. When done with repetition, it helps the brain build a new image of who you are. Most people repeat limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. I always mess this up. These internal narratives become hardwired. But you can overwrite them. You can retrain your brain to expect power, confidence, and focus. When you repeatedly visualize yourself as capable and intentional, your brain starts to replace those old scripts. It creates a new self-image, and your body begins to act in alignment with it. But again, without action, visualization is hollow. You cannot lie to your nervous system. You must give it data, real experiences. That's why after each visualization session, you must follow it with execution. Even small actions reinforce the imagined state. If you visualize yourself as someone who wakes up early, then get up 5 minutes earlier tomorrow. If you see yourself as calm under pressure, then put yourself in a situation that requires presence and practice controlling your response. These moments, repeated consistently, send a message to your brain: this vision is real and we're living it now. Your environment matters too. Visualization is most powerful when you create a setting that supports the mental rehearsal. Quiet the noise. Focus your mind. Be specific about what you want to experience. Feel the emotions. Engage all your senses. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Who are you becoming? This level of immersion sends a flood of signals to your brain, which accelerates adaptation. You're not just thinking about the future, you're preparing your nervous system to meet it with strength and familiarity. This is why the top 1% use visualization as a daily tool, not as a reaction to fear, but as a foundation for performance. They don't leave it to chance. They rehearse the win. They rehearse the challenge. They prepare their body and mind to face the day with clarity and intention. They pair visualization with structure, with habits, with routine. And most importantly, they execute every single day. No excuses, no hesitation. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not just action, it's alignment. Alignment between thought, belief, and execution. When visualization and behavior match, your identity shifts. You stop waiting for confidence and start building it. You stop reacting to life and begin designing it. You become someone who doesn't just dream, you create. Who doesn't just plan. You do, and over time, the identity you once imagined becomes your new reality, not by chance, not by luck, but by deliberate repetition of thought and action in perfect alignment. You are always rehearsing something. The question is, are you rehearsing your limits or your potential? Are you visualizing your excuses or your evolution? The mind will build whatever you feed it. Feed it focus, feed it clarity, feed it precision. Then back it up with relentless action, because visualization without action is illusion. But visualization fused with execution, that's transformation. That's how the 1% rise. That's how you rewire your identity. That's how you lead yourself into the life you were built to live. You become what you habitually practice, not what you occasionally attempt, not what you only plan or dream about. Your identity, your results, your reality are the cumulative outcome of what you do consistently. Excellence isn't a switch you flip when life demands more from you. It's a discipline you rehearse every single day, especially when no one's watching. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your patterns. And those patterns are shaped, moment by what you choose to repeat. People wait for excellence to arrive like a visitor, but it doesn't knock on the door of the unprepared. It lives in the daily grind, in the small decisions, in the unglamorous repetitions. Excellence is built in the way you treat your mornings, in the way you manage your energy, in the way you talk to yourself when things fall apart. What you practice is what you program. And the elite understand this better than anyone. They don't chase greatness in random bursts. They program greatness through deliberate habits repeated with intensity and intention. The nervous system doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you do. Every time you make a choice, that choice is reinforced. If you practice focus, you become more focused. If you repeatedly give in to distraction, you become more scattered. If you train under pressure, you become calm under pressure. That's how the body learns. That's how the brain rewires. You become whatever you repeat. That's why the 1% don't just set high standards, they live them. Every decision is filtered through the question, is this aligned with who I'm becoming? Excellence is not some dramatic event. It's not found in single breakthroughs. It is the result of becoming a master of the basics, so thoroughly, so consistently, that what's difficult for others becomes automatic for you. The top performers don't rise because of one massive effort. They rise because they've done the small things right for so long, the results become inevitable. They practice showing up early. They practice paying attention to detail. They practice staying calm in discomfort. They practice executing when they don't feel like it. These aren't glamorous acts, but repeated consistently, they form the DNA of greatness. Your current habits are not neutral. They are either pushing you toward power or pulling you into mediocrity. Every moment you repeat laziness, you hardwire laziness. Every time you skip what matters, you reinforce avoidance. That's how habits are formed, not through intention, but through repeated action. That's why it's not enough to think differently. You must practice differently. Identity is not built in theory, it is built in repetition. If you want to become elite, your actions must match the elite mindset. You must begin to carry yourself like the top 1% long before you ever reach the top. Your habits must reflect that version of you. Right now, there's no room for, when I get there, I'll start behaving like it. No, you start now. You train now. You move now. And as you do, your nervous system begins to adapt. It builds strength. It builds discipline. It builds capacity. And slowly, the habits that once felt difficult become your new normal. The truth is, success is never a mystery. It's a formula, repeated effort, over time with deliberate focus. It's not complicated. It's just not common. Most people are addicted to ease. They want results without repetition. But the elite, they're addicted to the process. They've learned to find meaning in the routine. They don't resent the repetition. They respect it because they know that in each repeated act, they are forging an identity that no one can take from them. This is why intentional repetition is so powerful. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things more often with precision. You don't need 100 different habits. You need a few non-negotiables that you commit to with intensity. The right morning routine, the right focus block, the right training system, the right self-talk. Master these through repetition, and your identity will shift without you even noticing. You will wake up one day not trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. Not pretending to be elite. You are elite. Because that's what you've trained for. Excellence then is a side effect. A result, a natural outcome of repeated identity-aligned behavior. And once your behavior matches the elite identity, you don't have to convince yourself of your worth. You've earned it. You've lived it. The world may only see the highlight moments, the wins, the awards, the breakthroughs. But you'll know that the real work happened in the repetition, in the quiet, in the places where nobody clapped. So the question is, what are you rehearsing? What identity are you practicing today? Because whether you're aware of it or not, every decision you make is training you for something. If you're not consciously creating your habits, you're unconsciously reinforcing your limits. The elite choose differently. They rehearse the future. They practice power. They build the life they want through relentless consistency. You don't need to wait for a sign. You don't need more motivation. You need to commit to the practice. Start where you are. Repeat what matters. Do it with excellence and do it again. Until excellence is no longer something you chase, it's something you live.